And welcome back to ABC 7 Extra Sunday. I'm Mark Ross. Our topic tonight, the Mexican American Cultural Center in downtown El Paso. And I'm joined by the center's director, Rebecca Munoz, and Ben Fife, the managing director of quality of life for the city of El Paso. Rebecca, how did construction affect the downtown library, and when will it reopen?
So the Downtown Library and the Mexican American Cultural Center were two of the quality of life bond projects. And so construction, I believe, and Ben can clarify this, happened concurrently. So the library did have to close down operations, but those construction projects were happening concurrently.
I would also mention that not just the library and the MAC were happening, we were also in the process of redeveloping Cleveland Square Park.
Yes.
So again, when we talk about a pretty ambitious project at the height of the pandemic, you have three major projects at the heart of downtown. But I think when people walk through those doors, they're going to see it was 100% worth it.
Mm-hmm. And the pandemic really did play havoc with this construction schedule.
Absolutely. I think just as you saw with all other sectors, construction was heavily impacted during the pandemic. You had a shortage of workers, you had supply chain issues, you had issues with imports coming in on things like steel, aluminum. Just a variety of challenges and problems. We're really grateful for our colleagues at the Capital Improvements Department who, as short-staffed as they were at the time, were also really prioritizing this amongst a whole other cadre of projects that were going forward at the time.
Rebecca, how much of the library space was then dedicated to the Mexican American Cultural Center?
40,000 square feet.
Okay,
Yes.
so about percentage-wise, more or less?
That's 40%.
40%, okay.
Yes.
All right. And the library has also had some improvements done as part of all of this going on.
Absolutely. So the library has undergone a full renovation that will lead to, I think, a much better use of the space that was there. We did a comprehensive study of that facility before we ever determined that it could be a shared facility, and found that the library at the time was utilizing about 39% of the overall 100,000 square footage of that space. So what they'll be seeing is a complete redesign. I think what people are really going to be the most excited about is a completely revamped children's section. Mm-hmm. As we all know, the main library is the flagship of our incredible library system, and that children's section is a place of wonder and discovery for El Pasoans children, and coming to that site now is going to be even more special.
Now, you've asked for a lot of input from El Pasoans about what they wanted to see in the Mexican American Cultural Center. Talk about that, Rebecca.
Yeah, so we have been doing a series of outreach since April when we started staffing the MAC. And so we have done outreach with community members throughout the city of El Paso. And we just recently closed a survey asking community members about what they would like to see at the MAC, and overwhelmingly many people want to see the cultural arts focused on within the MAC. They want to hear stories about leaders and artists and cultural producers that may not have their stories told prominently within the city. So we are really excited to really collect and release that feedback and integrate it into our programming. And so staff has been really dedicated at going out there, providing free activities throughout the city, arts and crafts, culinary offerings, and really listening and getting to know our community and making sure that they're reflected in all of the programming that's scheduled to be launched this spring.
I'd also mention too, I think one of the things that we're really proud of with the MAC is, even though those doors are not open, even though we broke ground in 2021, the staff has been out every single time they could be in the community with activities, building audience, building trust, and like Rebecca said, just really listening, to the point that before we've even opened those doors, we've already served over 10,000 El Pasoans.
Now, I know early on there was discussion about having the MAC in the Convention Center Theater, and there were a lot of discussions about that. And there were some people then who objected to having it attached to the downtown library because they didn't feel like that there was enough space to tell the story of Mexican Americans here on the border. What is your response to that?
So I think that, that criticism that there's not enough space to tell the story, I think once people enter the doors of both the MAC and the library, as they've been totally revisioned, there's adaptive reuse of the space. And so I think when people walk in, they're going to be really surprised at how spacious it is, but also how the space is going to be utilized and how both programs, the library and the MAC, complement each other. We have similar goals in terms of our outreach and in terms of allowing people to come in, learn about their cultural heritage, and we can amplify our resources with those two shared sites. And I think it's a model that's shared throughout the country in different spaces. Libraries and cultural centers have similar plans, and so I think it's going to really surprise people, but also people will be really proud when they walk in to be able to see that and to be able to have a full downtown experience. They'll be able to go to Cleveland Square Park, they'll be able to visit the Mexican American Cultural Center, see exhibitions and go to culinary classes, but also go to the library and listen to story time in the new children's area. So I think it's going to be a really innovative space.
I would also say too that looking at the historic development of this project, for those that felt the Chavez Theater was not, the annex to the Chavez Theater was not going to be large enough to accommodate the programming we knew we needed to do, the space at the site that was selected provides double the amount of space that would have ordinarily been at the annex at the MAC. I think for a lot of people, they, in the early discussions, the early years of this project, there was such a focus on the building. Whereas I think we really decided we needed to focus on the programming. And so the programming led to the determination of the building specs. We didn't want a big, beautiful building that was going to be empty. We want something that is going to be bursting at the seams with activity, with vibrancy. And it's important to remember that this center is not going to be a static place with static exhibitions. There are going to be visual art exhibitions, but there's also performing arts spaces. There's a dance studio, there's recording studio. So it really is going to be a catalyst for cultural preservation and cultural storytelling and cultural production in El Paso.
Will there be an entrance between the MAC and the library? Will people be able to pass through the library and go into the MAC that way as well as from outside?
Yes, so the library has its own standalone entrance as well as the MAC, but once you're in those two facilities, there are a set of doors that connect both the library and the MAC. And so people will be able to visit both spaces.
Still ahead, what you'll find inside the Mexican American Cultural Center once it opens. You're watching ABC 7 Extra Sunday.